Joining us from the Knights Group, the MD, Gregor Evans, on the Informer, first timer. Welcome, Gregor.
Thank you, George. Pleasure to be on the show.
Who's the Knight?
So the Knights, we specialise in owners corporation management, and owners corporations used to be known as body corporate. So basically we help owners, committees with the management of the common areas in apartment buildings and other similar properties such as retail or commercial.
Now, I bet with all the COVID pandemic and the way that we are evolving as a society, the challenges for the Owners Corporation would also be evolving and changing.
Certainly. It's a very challenging time at the moment for groups of owners, for these owners corporations. They've got to deal with, obviously, occupiers within properties, but also looking at the financial implications of the whole COVID crisis. Potentially owners losing their jobs or tenants, and therefore the ramifications in terms of people paying their fees and what that's going to look like for owners corporations. So yes, we've certainly been supporting our clients closely in regards to what it may look like if people can't pay their fees and the owners corporation struggles with paying outgoings.
I can imagine the challenges that would present you with those sorts of anomalies, but I can tell you we live in a body corporate, and one of the things that we are missing, especially during the lockdown, is the fact that we have a tremendous caretaker and gardener who does a magnificent job and has a flair, convivial, a genial character, and adds another layer of I'm here looking after you guys as part of everybody else. So how are you guys coping with that? Because you'd have enormous number of corporations, owners corporations, under your lock and key or under your responsibility.
Yes, definitely. So we manage over 300 properties around town.
Wow.
And that consists of about 20,000 apartments in total. So we do have a few under management, and certainly very challenging. It comes down to communication, George. You're making sure that owners are aware of the situation and that they know what's required in terms of this whole situation, whether it's social distancing or how they can actually allow essential items to come into the property, food delivery services, that type of thing. And I think it is very tough when you've got the caretaker, the building manager who's there on site, but sometimes we're seeing, especially under stage 4, a lot of these services aren't allowed at the moment. They're going to be put on hold.
I was going to say your cleaning regimen, your schedule, especially if you have owners corporation and you're in a tower or you're in a number of beautiful apartments and you're 3, 4, 5 floors, those lifts would be needing to be serviced at a rate that you've never thought about before.
Exactly. So yes, the frequency of cleaning has certainly increased across the board, and those high touch areas such as door handles, lift buttons, they need to be cleaned a couple of times a day just to mitigate that risk of spreading COVID. So what we've done is looked at services to a body corporate, owners corporation, that are not required, and we've either put a stop or reduced those services, and then I guess allocated the resources to the cleaning and also to waste removal as well, waste collection. We're seeing that all these occupiers are staying at home, and therefore there's been a spike in residential waste. So,
well, I can vouch for that. I can vouch for that. There's another problem too. We have so many deliveries coming from online purchases and this, that and the other, and the proliferation in cardboard, boxes, and there's only so much room that the Owners Corporation provides within what is reasonable and fair, but we've gone way past that. How can you assist us, Greg?
Look, it's a bit of it's certainly a challenge, that one, George.
It's not a laughing matter, is it? It's not a laughing matter, is it?
It's not a what matter, sorry?
It's not a laughing matter.
No, it's not, certainly not a laughing matter. And I guess a laugh because, we've got to deal with it, and and it is tough, and it comes down to increasing again the frequency of waste collection, but that's an additional cost to the owners corporation, to all the lot owners.
Wow.
And then I guess talking about waste, what we've actually experienced is that there have been a few cases where occupiers have contracted COVID.
Oh no.
And so the issue there is that how do they get rid of the waste from their apartments, which may be contaminated with potentially COVID as well? So do they, because they're not allowed outside their apartments, we're talking about a tower here, so they're not allowed to travel through the common area down to the waste room to dispose of their waste. So that means the owners corporation again has to engage cleaners to take the waste down to the bins or dispose of it directly. And that's pretty costly as well.
I can imagine. Look, I suppose there's the other element too that's adding another layer of real difficulty. Every visitor who would come to those apartments in the past, they'd go through the normal rigmarole. I suppose now you'd have to almost record every visit, and that's not something you guys have ever signed on for.
No, not at all. So the recent requirements implemented by the government specifies that an owners corporation must record all the visitors and contractors attending site. And when there is a property where there's no on-site building manager or caretaker, it is very difficult. So I guess what we've done is we've implemented virtual registers for every property, and we've developed signage that is installed at main entrance points, encouraging people to go onto the website to register their attendance. And that the reason being is so if there is a case of COVID at the property, we can determine who actually has attended the property. However, we're finding that a lot of people just ignore those instructions, and whether it's a delivery driver delivering food or a friend coming over to care for someone's kids, they're reluctant to actually register. So it's hard to enforce, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine that not a challenge. It's something, it's unforeseen, and it requires an inordinate amount of your time. And I suppose that, as you said, you've got 300 body corporates or owners corporations that you're looking after. That's an incredible impost to your normal day-to-day running.
Certainly is. Yeah, we've found that the communication from residents, from owners corporation committees has certainly skyrocketed.
Wow.
As a result of this whole COVID. And it's certainly challenging for us as an organisation. We sent all of our staff home in the third week of March to work remotely.
Oh dear.
And so it is difficult, obviously, transferring calls and emails, but it has to be done at the end of the day. We're here to support our clients. We've spent a lot of time looking at forecasts for the financials for an owners corporation, looking at different scenarios. If, let's say, 20% of owners don't pay their fees on time, or whether it's 50%, what the ramifications are going to be, and how an owners corporation can combat that. So whether it's borrowing money from a bank or striking an extra levy from those owners who can afford to pay fees, or again, looking at what services aren't required and putting them on the back burner, so that can reduce the expense for the owners corporation. So there's a few different strategies.
It's a bit like trimming the sails in a storm and trying to get through as best you can. Now, are there any positives to emerge through this COVID experience that we're all going through, in a very different fashion, of course, depending where we're living and how we're living? But have you found anything that's a plus or a positive that put a smile on your face?
Yeah, look, you've always got to look for the positives, and there's certainly been a lot of negatives as a result of this whole situation. So in terms of positives, there's been a few. One would be in regard to the how people connect and communicate within these owners corporations. So previously, the owners corporation committee and owners have met in person, and there's a lot of, I guess, apathy in owners corporations themselves, and that additional requirements to travel to a location to meet hasn't helped that. So the use of Zoom and MS Teams video conferencing has certainly been a positive. We've seen for a number of properties that we manage more attendees at meetings because it's so easy to connect from your living room, from the couch, wherever. And that's certainly
Have you discovered that there are people enjoying the experience of actually identifying who lives next to them?
Yes, exactly. And I've heard stories, George, in regard to that increase of community connection, that sense of community, even though we have to social distance. People conversing over their balconies because they can't go down the street for a coffee, but having a chat with their neighbour.
Or you're sharing the shopping for elder residents who are struggling to get out and about.
Exactly. That's been a fantastic story. And I've heard that a number of times where an elderly neighbour struggled to go down the street, and so therefore they're getting that support from the community, which is fantastic.
That's awesome. Gregor Evans is the man we've been talking to, the MD of the Knights Group. They've been around for about 20 years. How long have you been MD, Gregor?
I've been MD for a couple of years, just over 2 years now, George. So it's a family organisation. My father started the business in 1995, and I've been involved for 15, but took over the baton a couple of years ago. And it's a fantastic industry to work in, different challenges every day. Obviously, COVID has been a huge challenge recently, but we're weathering the storm.
No one saw it coming. We wish you all the very best. And I'm sure there are many more challenges just around the corner. Let's hope, though, that the lockdown restrictions are lifted soon and we can get back to living in the way that many of us have been accustomed to. Thank you again. Gregor Evans from the Knights Group.